Are you tired of feeling like your stomach has its own agenda? Like the bloating, gas, or constant trips to the bathroom are running your life? Welcome to the Beyond Bloated Podcast, the podcast where we tackle those frustrating gut issues head on, without strict diets or giving up your favorite foods. I'm Carly, a certified gut health coach who's been there, struggling with bloating that made me look 6 months pregnant, gut pain that kept me from enjoying meals, and fatigue so draining it felt impossible to get through the day. Now, I help women like you find freedom from those symptoms and take back control of their lives. Each week, we'll debunk gut health myths, dive into simple, actionable tips, and hear stories from women who've been exactly where you are. It's time to feel confident, energized, and bloat-free. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beyond Bloated Podcast, or welcome for the very first time. If you are a long-time listener, first of all, thank you. I appreciate you. I love that you keep coming back and you're still working on yourself. You the best. Second of all, could you please rate this podcast for me? I have been releasing these free episodes to help you get your gut health back, and all I ask in return is if you could just throw a star rating or write something that'll make my day on Apple Podcast or Spotify, wherever you are listening. It really helps my podcast reach more women that I can continue to help. So if you have 30 seconds to get that done for me, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now, the real reason why you are here. This episode is dedicated to all of my ladies who have done all of the generic gut health advice, like take a probiotic supplement and cut out gluten, but you still feel like shit. I was once in your shoes, so trust me when I say I know how frustrating that feels. I also know that there is a way to feel better, and it involves a much more personalized approach to diet, lifestyle, and supplements than doing exactly what your favorite influencer did to heal her own gut. Today, we are going to help you get started on your personalized gut health journey by discussing what some of the most common root causes to IBS, did that in quotes, actually are, why the elimination diets and random probiotic supplements that you are taking are not getting you anywhere, or possibly making you feel worse, and some next steps that you can take if you are ready to start getting your gut in tip-top shape as quickly as possible. And my wonderful guest, Jillian Smith, is going to help me with this conversation today. Jillian is a registered dietitian who specializes in gut health and truly gets what it's like to struggle with IBS and digestive issues. After spending over a decade dealing with her own gut symptoms, Jillian now helps clients all over the world get to the root of their bloating, discomfort, and tummy troubles so they can finally feel good in their bodies again. She is the lead dietitian at Gut Personal, a company that blends functional medicine with personalized supplement support. But what I personally love about Jillian is her deep belief that how we feel on the inside shapes how we show up in the world. She is very passionate about helping people move from frustration to empowerment, because when your gut feels good, everything else gets better too. So without further ado, let's give a big, warm welcome to Jillian Smith. Thank you so much for joining us on the Beyond Bloated podcast today.
Oh my goodness, of course. I'm so excited to be here talking about both of our favorite topics. So it's going to be a fun time.
Literally my favorite topic, which I never would have thought like 10 years ago that this would be my favorite topic, but it is. And I know you have your own origin story as well. So I would love if you could start us off by sharing your IBS journey and how you kind of came out the other side of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think A lot of practitioners can kind of relate to getting into the field in which they practice from personal experience. And that was definitely the case for me. So I am a functional medicine registered dietitian, and I really got interested in this area of work because I struggled with my own gut health issues for over a decade, really went through the ringer there. When I think back on my story, it really started back when I was in high school. And I remember I was super constipated. Like I would only poop once a week. And I just thought that was normal. I grew up, my mom always struggled with gut issues. My older sister struggled with gut issues. So I was just like, girls just don't poop every day. That's just how it is. So because of this constipation, I was also incredibly bloated. I would wake up in the morning, have a sip of water, and my stomach would look 6 months pregnant. I would get very distended. It was super uncomfortable. And from all these gut health imbalances, I then started to break out in cystic acne. My periods became super irregular. So it was kind of like the snowball effect that was really going on while I was in high school. And it was super stressful, super overwhelming. My mom, bless her heart, would take me to all the specialists. I was going to all these different GI specialists. I was getting colonoscopies, endoscopies. I was going to dermatologists to try to clear my skin. And, nothing was really working. Nothing was giving me any answers. Everything just kept on coming back, quote unquote, normal. Fast forward to college, I was there studying to become a dietitian. So, I was studying nutrition and I was doing everything that the textbooks were telling me to do. And I was doing the low FODMAP diet. And I was cutting out gluten and I was cutting out dairy. I tried intermittent fasting. I tried low carb, like you name it. I tried every diet that's out there. Again, I was continuously going to all these doctors. They were putting me on different medications to help me go to the bathroom. They were putting me on birth control and Accutane to try to clear up my skin. Nothing was moving the needle. And it was a very just defeating place to be because here I was, a dietitian, thinking that I should be the one that has all the answers. And yet I couldn't even heal my own gut. It wasn't until after college, I was a dietitian. I was working as the clinical dietitian at an acute care style hospital, kind of like an emergency room. I started learning about this branch of healthcare called functional medicine. I started hearing about it on Instagram and I was like, what is this functional medicine? And for those who aren't familiar, really the whole goal of functional medicine is to get to the root causes of imbalances. And this was so intriguing to me because I wanted to get rid of my constipation and my bloating and my skin issues and my hormone imbalances. And I knew that it was all coming from the gut. And I really wanted to dive in and figure what was going on there. So I went back to school, did some more advanced training in functional medicine, absolutely fell in love with it. The thing that really changed my life was I did a functional medicine stool test, which actually showed the microbes that were growing in my gut. No wonder I was so bloated and constipated. I had a massive overgrowth of inflammatory bacteria. I had candida, which is a very inflammatory yeast. My digestive enzymes were incredibly low, so I couldn't even digest and absorb the healthy foods that I was eating. Once I had these answers, I was able to get myself on the right protocol, both nutrition, I used some targeted supplements, and lifestyle to go in and heal these imbalances. And in a matter of just a few months, I was able to completely heal my gut, clear my skin, and just get back to feeling like myself again. And, it was such an empowering thing. It was such like a light bulb moment to be like, why aren't more people talking about this? I ended up quitting my job at the hospital. I got into private practice and now I help women who are in my exact shoes find these answers and solutions and get back to feeling amazing in their bodies as well. So it's a little about me and how I got to doing what I do.
Yay. Well, I'm happy that you ended up figuring it out because I know how difficult it is living with chronic constipation and bloating and irregular cycles and pain. And I had all the same symptoms. Unfortunately, a lot of us do, especially women, that we get hit harder, it appears. And it's hard to get answers. It's hard to get help. Like you saw doctors and specialists and you tried diets and did all the things that you would think to do when you're unwell. And it's not that simple. So could you kind of share why the restrictive diets, the cutting out gluten, the take this probiotic, why that wasn't enough to help you get to where you are now?
Yeah. And that was always the recommendations that I was getting from all the doctors was, oh, you have gut issues? Just go try a probiotic. Go find one in the grocery store and make sure it's in the refrigerator and you'll be fine. And those things never helped. And we were talking before we started recording that many times probiotics can actually make you feel worse. And it wasn't until, I've been now in private practice for 6 years. And so I've really been able to see these patterns of like, not all probiotics are created equal. And, there's so many out there, there's so many different strains, and it can be very overwhelming for a lot of people. And honestly, I don't agree with the advice of just go pick out a random one at the grocery store, because they're not all the same. And some can absolutely make you feel worse. And speaking to the restrictive diet piece, this is a really big one that I don't know if you see this as well, but I see a lot of my clients come to me and they're on very restrictive diets. And, I think a lot of times when you're struggling with gut health issues, you want to blame the food. You think it's a food problem because you eat the food, you get the symptoms. So you're like, oh, if I just figure out the food that's causing my bloating or my diarrhea or my constipation, if I just figure out that one food, I can cut it out and I'll be healed. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. How I always describe it to my clients is it's not the food that's causing your gut issues. It's the environment that the food is going into, which is your gut. So if you have a lot of imbalances going on the inside, of course, you're going to have a harder time breaking down that food. Of course, you're going to be more reactive, but it doesn't have anything to do with the food. It has everything to do with your gut. So I do not use restrictive diets in my practice. I actually don't do any food sensitivity testing. I'm more about let's get to the root cause, which is your gut. Let's do gut testing so we can see what's going on inside of there, correct that, and then the foods become a non-issue. And that's such a better way to live too. Nobody wants to be on these super strict elimination diets that just take the joy out of eating. It takes the joy out of traveling and going out with friends. And really the whole goal and the reality is once you heal your gut, you can eat more foods and you can be eating the foods that you want without having the digestive issues. And, I think you and I are living proof of that. And so are all the other people that we help and are able to get that support for that deeper healing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I 100% agree with that approach because I was the girl who was on the low FODMAP, gluten-free, dairy-free, liver cleanse, whatever diet that I was doing at the time. And I was searching for that food that was irritating my gut. Like I went grain-free even, I just kept trying different elimination diets because I was still having symptoms. And you're right, it is so easy to blame food because we eat, we feel bad. So it's like, yes, the food that I ate made me feel bad. But if you're eating healthy whole foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, meats, whatever that may be, and you still are feeling bad, you're having gas and bloating, pain, it's not the food. Like if you're buying good quality food, it should not be upsetting your gut. And you're also very right on the point about take a generic probiotic is horrible advice because a lot of times it does make symptoms worse. And I was actually the one who said, like, I am sensitive to probiotics. If I just take a random probiotic off the shelf, which is what I was doing at the beginning of my journey, I was feeling worse. I was more bloated, more gassy, more constipated, or I would start having diarrhea. And I'm like, what the hell? This is supposed to be working. Why is it making me feel worse? And it's because that's not the right advice. A generic probiotic, there's so many different strains of bacteria in our gut. You need the right strain for the symptom, the condition that's specific to you. So you nailed it right on the head there. And diving a little deeper into that, what would you say are some of the most common root causes to quote unquote IBS that you see in your practice?
Hey everyone, Carly here. If you are tired of feeling bloated and uncomfortable, which I know you are, I have something that can really help. My free ultimate guide to bloat busting. I've been there myself, and I know how frustrating it is to try super restrictive diets and expensive supplements without getting results. If those methods were going to work, they would have worked by now. That's why I created this guide to offer you a different approach. In the ultimate guide to bloat busting, you'll learn techniques to listen to your body and eat with intention, avoiding overeating and choosing foods that truly benefit you, tips for proper hydration to support digestion and reduce bloating, a guide to delicious foods that promote a healthy gut and how to easily incorporate them into your meals, and effective methods to manage stress, which plays a huge role in gut health. These simple, practical strategies can make a big difference in your daily life, helping you feel lighter, more energized, and comfortable in your own skin. Ready to ditch the bloat without strict diets or costly supplements? Download your free copy today at beyondbloated.com bloatfree.com/ultimate-guide and start your journey to a bloat-free life. Now, let's get back to it.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Good old IBS. The amount of times I was told it's just IBS. There's no treatment. You just have to manage your symptoms. It's such a defeating, quote unquote, diagnosis. I always say IBS, it's a BS diagnosis because it's not telling you what's going on. And the truth of the matter is that there are root causes to IBS. There is a cause to your IBS. Once you figure out what that is, you can absolutely reverse that IBS and not have to live with those symptoms anymore. So some of the biggest root causes that I see. So number one, it's an overgrowth of bacteria. And, I'm sure people are also familiar with SIBO, which is that small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. It's when our bacteria that's supposed to be down in the large intestine starts to kind of migrate their way up to the small intestine. We don't want to be having a bunch of bacteria in the small intestine because that's what's creating severe bloating and gas and distension and pain, especially after eating. And SIBO is actually the root cause to 70% of IBS cases. So for many people, when they're told you have IBS, it's 70% chance it's actually SIBO, and it's this overgrowth of bacteria going on in the small intestine. So I absolutely find number one biggest root cause is this overgrowth of bacteria going on. And, we can even dive in deeper to why does that bacteria overgrow? There's also a lot of factors to where the environment of the gut can become unbalanced, which allows this overgrowth of bacteria to start to take place. So that's a really big one. I would also say another large one is insufficient, I call it digestive juices. So what I mean by those digestive juices, it's our stomach acid, it's our digestive enzymes, it's our bile, it's the things that our body produces in order to help us break down our food and absorb our nutrients. And it's really, really common where these things can be insufficient, which means we cannot digest our foods well. So maybe your enzymes are low, maybe your stomach acid is low, maybe you're not producing or secreting sufficient amount of bile. And this is a really, really common one. I do test for all of this with my clients just because I'm like, we got to know what we're working with because the symptoms can look the same, but different root causes. So this overgrowth of bacteria, you can feel really bloated after meals, but also not having enough digestive enzymes, you're going to be really bloated after meals. So in order to properly treat, we have to know what we're actually working with. So I would say those are probably the two biggest root causes. And those are kind of more like those physical imbalances. I will also say there is a massive gut-brain connection when it comes to IBS. So there's so much nutrition and lifestyle wrapped up into this as well. I talk to my clients a lot about meal hygiene. This is stuff, it's like the quote unquote unsexy thing that people don't always think about. But the reality is we are a very busy society. We live in a time where everything is very go, go, go. And we are not carving out the time to just sit down, be seated with our feet on the ground, present and undistracted during our meals. We are eating too quickly. We are not chewing our foods thoroughly. And this, especially when this is repeated day after day, will begin to lead into more gut health imbalances. So I also always need to bring up like, hey, are you eating too fast? Are you chewing thoroughly? Are you spacing your meals out and not just grazing throughout the whole day? So, I think that these are all little tips and tricks that are totally free at our disposal that many of us just don't really think about or pay much attention to.
Very, very true and very important. And I actually kind of want to talk about SIBO and not having enough stomach acid, bile, enzymes, and how that is also related to the mind-gut connection. Because if you are stressed and not chewing your food and you're distracted, kind of all the things you talked about around meal hygiene, you're not going to be producing enough stomach acid and gastric juices. So that's like step number one is start eating mindfully, to trigger your body to make those gastric juices.
Totally agree. And, you hear a lot like digestion starts in the mouth, so you need to chew your foods properly. But I even take it a step further and I say digestion starts in the brain. If you start thinking about food, or I always tell my clients a fun little activity, like take a second and just like think about eating a lemon. Like imagine yourself just biting into a lemon wedge. Like what are you feeling in your mouth right now? You're probably feeling like saliva getting released, like you're salivating a little bit. That is your brain telling your body and sending those signals of like, oh, food is incoming, start secreting saliva and stomach acid, get ready to release those digestive juices. And all of that is starting at the level of the brain. So, when we kind of peel back the layers of the onion of like, where are all of your gut issues originating? I would say a large majority is starting with our stress. Because if our body is stressed, stress is one of the number one things that depletes our stomach acid. It's also the number one thing that reduces our immune defenses that are inside of our gut. Once the immune system in the gut goes down, bad bacteria can start overgrowing, SIBO can begin to occur, other bad microbes, pathogens, yeast, parasites can begin to get in and take up real estate in the gut. And when we really back it all down, it's your stress. And, I think that it's a hard one because people want to be told like, oh, just take this pill and like, it's going to fix everything. Because like, yeah, swallowing a pill every day, like that's easy. The hard stuff is getting control of your stress and rewiring your brain to be able to recognize when you're in stressful situations and be able to recalibrate. Like that's the hard stuff and that's the hard work, but that's the stuff that actually works.
Absolutely. I always say that too. Like stress is probably the number one reason why we develop gut issues. I've mentioned many times on my podcast how like my gut issues were triggered, yes, because I was living an atrocious lifestyle. My diet was bad. That was all compiling. But what actually set things in motion was I was working a job that made me miserable. I was anxious every single day. I was so stressed out. And I'm usually a pretty chill person, but that job just ruined me mentally. That is when my gut issues triggered because that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And ever since I've made that realization, I'm like, that makes complete sense because stress destroys our gut barrier or it prevents us from producing those gastric juices. I actually haven't even made an episode on SIBO yet because I myself had SIBO like 3-4 times and I changed my opinion on it very frequently because I do believe it is heavily influenced by stress. Like if you are stressed and you're treating SIBO, it's just going to keep coming back. So I would love to hear your take on SIBO and what causes it and what would be your approach to start to correct it.
Yeah, I love this. So I always say SIBO, it's a secondary issue. It's not a root cause, which is why reoccurrence rate is so common. Maybe you go to your doctor, maybe they do test you for SIBO, which is awesome. And they find that it's positive. Maybe they start you on an antibiotic and you feel so much better. That bacteria gets killed off and you're like, oh my goodness, that was it. I just healed my gut. I am good. I'm no longer bloated, gassy. Like I feel amazing. Well, a few months down the road, you all of a sudden start to feel those same symptoms start to creep back in. And you're like, no, like what is going on? Is the SIBO coming back? So then you go and get on more antibiotics and it's just this vicious cycle. And the reason is because that SIBO, it's a secondary issue. So unless you address the root causes and unless you address that environment in which allowed the SIBO to overgrow in the first place, it's going to keep on coming back. So that's something I really try to educate on because it can feel very defeating to be in this vicious SIBO cycle. And you don't have to be, but you need to address the overgrowth, but you have to take it one step further and also address why that overgrew in the first place. So to your point, I agree. I think stress is a massive one. I think a lot of it has to do with because it reduces our stomach acid and it reduces our digestive enzymes. Because if we are not properly and completely breaking down our foods, what will happen is we have these like undigested food particles that'll travel on down into your intestines and they'll just kind of sit down in there and they ferment and they can feed this bacteria, which will then allow them to grow, causing this overgrowth. Another big root cause I see is consistent snacking throughout the day. I see this a lot too with a lot of my female clients is sometimes we can be like little birds. We just like to kind of have little snacks every hour or two, little handful of this, a little bite of that, and just kind of graze throughout the day. This is really wreaking havoc on your gut health and we got to stop the snacking. This is a huge root cause to SIBO because we have this natural cleaning wave. It's called the migrating motor complex. It's basically these natural cleaning cells that go through your digestive tract and it cleans out unwanted food particles and bad bacteria. And it basically like keeps your gut clean. So you're not having these overgrowths go on. But we have to be in a period of fasting in order for these cleaning cells to turn on. So what I recommend is you need to be fasting for about 3.5 to 4 hours between each meal so that these cleaning cells can go in and start clearing things out. So if you're somebody who just kind of mindlessly snacks and grazes throughout the day, this could be a really powerful thing for you to start paying attention to, start condensing those snacks into actual meal times and try not to snack too much in between those. That's a really big one that I see as well. And then also if your immune system is depleted. So 70% of our immune system lives in our gut. And we need to have this very strong and robust immune system inside of our gut, because our gut is basically where the outside world comes in, right? Through eating and drinking and talking. We have all these different microbes that are making their way into our digestive system. We need to have a good, strong immune defense to be able to decipher of like, oop, this is a bad guy, get him out. And oh, this is a good guy, he can stay. And over time, if we have high stress levels, if we have chronic ongoing gut issues, if we have a long-term occurrence of antibiotics, this immune system can start to get depleted. Then we don't have those defenses to keep bacteria at bay, and we can begin to see them overgrow. So there are a lot of different factors that can contribute and impact SIBO and lead to this reoccurrence even after you treat it, which is why I really encourage people like, hey, work with somebody who knows this stuff and can actually guide you, because it can feel overwhelming to really know what you need to do. And the truth of the matter is, you just got to figure out what your root cause is, focus on that, and that's how you get the long-term results.
Yeah, I love that explanation. And that makes sense because I lived it. Like I said, had SIBO. My gut issues were triggered because of stress. That started the whole cascade. I also, like you mentioned, the snacking. I was a snacker back in the day. That was because I ate zero protein and I just ate sugar.
Yeah.
So I was hungry all the time. And it was an ongoing joke in my household of like, Carly's always hungry. Carly's eating again. And I was hungry all the time. So I was just constantly snacking. That was a major shift that I made that did help significantly with my gut. I spaced my meals 3 to 4 hours. I still have a quick metabolism, still a hungry girl, but I don't snack in between like I used to. And my immune system was terrible. Like even before my gut issues really kicked in, I was sick all the time. I was getting UTIs. I was getting throat infections. I was getting colds. Like month after month after month, I was taking antibiotics on repeat. My gut was wiped. So I had all of the above. And as I mentioned, I had SIBO, who knows how many times. I kept trying to treat it because I even went to see a SIBO specialist. And here, take this. Here, take this. Now try this. Take this. I felt so bad because it was just, I don't know, whatever I was taking did not agree with me. I was so bloated, so gassy. I felt worse than when I wasn't taking it. And then it just kept coming back. So yeah, you need to definitely address the lifestyle, the diet, the stress component if you are trying to tackle SIBO, because just taking the kill supplements, as I like to call them, is only going to get you so far. And in my case, it made me feel 10 times worse. So what would you say for like personalized approaches to gut health? I know Gut Personal, it's in the name. They are very about personalizing your supplement protocol, but I know you also do the diet and lifestyle component along with that. So give us an example of you're meeting with a client, they have X issue. Where does the personalization come in?
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever I work with clients, I do gut testing on every single one of my clients, just because I find it so helpful to identifying those root causes. And so whenever I'm meeting with clients, our first session is really diving into nutrition. So I really want to hear, what does a day of eating look like for you? Do you eat breakfast every day? What would you typically have? What time are you eating breakfast? How long is that after you wake up? Do you do coffee before your breakfast? Really diving in deep to these questions. And it's funny because I'll have clients be like, I never even really thought about this kind of thing before. Like, this is like a very in-depth diet recall. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a dietitian. So I want all the details. And also it really, really matters when it comes to your gut health. When I'm assessing all of this, I'm trying to assess for not only what are you eating, but how are you eating and when are you eating? These are really, really big contributors as well, that you might have the most perfect diet, but if you are, like we said, snacking all day, or maybe you're skipping meals, or maybe you're super busy at work and so you don't have time for lunch, and you're going these long periods without eating, which are causing these blood sugar swings, all of this is really important. So we really spend our entire first session discussing nutrition and lifestyle. Those are really the foundations. How I describe it to my clients is we need to get the foundations locked in first, and then we can add in that targeted supplement plan to address any of the imbalances imbalances that are going on, but that's kind of like cherry on top. And if we don't have that strong foundation to work off of, it's really hard to get those long-term results. So we do a lot of nutrition and lifestyle work in the first session. By our second session is when we have those gut test results. And, I don't think everybody necessarily needs a gut test. In the way that I practice, I just find it's very, very helpful to kind of get into the fast lane and stop all the guesswork of like, maybe try it. Like, I suspect it might be an overgrowth. Instead, it's like, let's test and see if it's an overgrowth, or let's test and see if it's a lack of enzymes. So I do testing, which really helps to guide that protocol. And another thing I always tell clients is if you're on these supplement protocols, number one, you need to be working with a practitioner who can personalize it for you, because there's so many supplements out there. And especially with social media, it can be very easy to be like, I need this one, I need this one, I need this one. And truth of the matter is you absolutely do not. So making sure you're taking the right ones for you, for your body, for your goals, and for what's going on. And also, they should be short term. You shouldn't be on these lengthy protocols for months and months and months on end. Typically, on average, I would say the typical personalized protocol I put my clients on after we do testing is about 3 months. And it kind of depends on what's going on. Another big piece to that is how to kind of phase these protocols in. Because to your point, some people can be very sensitive to supplements. So I see a lot of practitioners being like, oh, you have all these imbalances going on in the gut. Here's this big kill protocol. You're going to feel so much better. Well, this client's like, great. And they start taking this kill protocol and they feel so much worse. Maybe their adrenal glands are completely shot because they are under eating and over exercising. So they don't even have the energy to clear those. Maybe their immune system is shot. Maybe their liver is super clogged up. Maybe they're constipated. So they're not able to like poop these things out. These are all things that need to be assessed prior to even starting a protocol, because you don't want to be starting a protocol, have all this die off and feel even worse. So, I think when you talk about personalization, it goes more than just here are your personalized supplements. That's a big piece, but it's also personalizing your nutrition, your lifestyle, how to phase these things in, because all of us are so different. All of us have different lifestyles. And so working with somebody who can kind of help guide you on that is so crucial, I find.
I love it. And that is very personalized, which makes it so successful because, it's easy to try to go it alone because of, like you said, social media, even like us sharing our own stories is like, oh, I'm just going to do what Jillian did, or I'm going to do what Carly did. No, that is not going to work for you because you are not us. Jillian and I had similar symptoms, but we did things differently. I am almost positive because we have different gut microbiomes. We have different lifestyles. You cannot expect one person to do the same thing as someone else when they are living a completely different life, have a different environment. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So I agree. Working with someone who can help you see big picture, how you are living, what we can fit into your life that will be sustainable and stick. Because I'm sure, same for you, I work with clients who are business owners, moms of 4, women in their 60s who are retired, like so different. And asking all of them to do the exact same thing is just unrealistic. So yes, personalization, working with someone who can help you personalize in a way that works for you and will actually help you get results is going to be the fastest way to feel better, and honestly feel better, period, because trying to do it alone is just stressful, which is going to make things worse and overwhelming, and you're going to end up spending way more money, because that's what I did. I spent so much money on supplements, different specialized practitioner appointments, this and that, and didn't get me anywhere. So absolutely agree.
And, I think also, I hope this kind of serves as like some hope and some empowerment for people, because if you feel like you've tried everything and maybe you're like, this girl took this supplement and it worked for her, why isn't it working for me? It's easy to start getting into the mind frame of like, my body's broken, or I'm never going to heal, or these are just the cards I was dealt. I'm going to have to learn to live with this. And that's absolutely not true. We're all so different, and what worked for one person isn't going to work for you. Doesn't mean that your body is broken. It just means that you have to go about it in a personalized way and address your unique root causes. And so that was something that was really helpful for me during my healing journey, because it is super disempowering and it can start to feel hopeless, especially when you have these doctors who are like, all's normal. I'm like, you're healthy, you're looking great, and you're feeling like absolute garbage. So I do hope that it also helps people get excited of like, okay, there's still so many stones for me to overturn, and there's still so many more possibilities for me to feel a lot better.
Yeah, that is super important. And I was that person also who was defeated, right? Because you see this worked for someone else, this worked for someone else. Why isn't it working for me? But I got there. Jillian got there. You just need to find your path. I promise you, your gut issues are not permanent. They can be reversed. They didn't just happen because of shit luck. It happened for a reason. You can find that reason and start to correct it. And I would love for you to share with us more about where we can find you, Gut Personal, where we can reach out to you, work with you, all the things.
Yeah. Now that we talked about so much great information, it's like, let's talk about some action steps. Like, okay, what should you do to like start healing? So like I said, I do work with clients where, I do this in-depth testing and ongoing coaching support and that whole thing, all virtual. But what I was finding is, over the years of doing this for so long, there's so many people struggling with gut health issues. It is such a problem. And honestly, it's only growing. And as you know, when you're working with clients one-on-one, there's a limit. There's only so many clients that you can see in a day. And we were seeing that there was just such a need. So that's why we opened up the supplement side of the company only about 4 years ago. So the coaching side has been open much longer, but we opened up the supplement side because me and then the founder of the company, her name's Bridget. She's also a functional medicine dietitian. We know the sort of questions to be asking, the sort of symptoms that can be pointing to different root causes. And so what we did is we took the supplement line and we created different ways in which people can figure out what your root causes are without doing testing and then taking that proper supplement. So it's kind of like a way to get personalized supplements without the in-depth commitment of one-on-one coaching. So a few different ways. On our website, we have a quiz. Actually, it's a totally free quiz. It takes you like 3 minutes to complete. You go through it and you answer these series of questions that I created. And at the end, once we have your answers, we can curate your personalized protocol of like, oh, okay, so you're really bloated after meals. This might mean that you are low in your enzymes, or you feel really bloated upon waking and you're bloated throughout the whole day. You might have this inflammatory yeast overgrowth going on. Take this supplement. So we're able to curate a personalized plan right online for free. So that's our quiz. I also offer complimentary supplement consult calls. So if anyone ever just wants to hop on a phone and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this, and this, what should I do? And I can personalize a protocol for them. So we really want people to feel supported through this healing journey. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to figure this out on their own. This is why you and I have gone to school for this for so long, and we're here to help. So different ways to get support, the quiz, a call, more in-depth testing, and all of that's available on our website.
I will say I did the call with Jillian, the personalized call, and she was kind enough to send me 2 supplements that she thought would help me, because even though I'm a gut health coach, even though my gut health is so much better than it was, it is a journey. You are never just done. You can never just go back to your old lifestyle and throw in the towel. So I'm always looking for ways to continue improving my own health, keep up with what I have going on. Maintenance is also important. So I had the magnesium and a probiotic, and I think magnesium is something that most people need.
Agreed.
It's very beneficial for sleep, for bowel movements, for muscle relaxation, all the things. So I've been taking that before bed, loving it. And I also took the probiotic, which I was nervous about because, as I mentioned, I can be sensitive to probiotics, but this probiotic is very high quality. It is soil-based. I have done an episode on probiotics in the past if you want to learn more about what that means. I've been taking it for a few weeks now, and I do not have the bloating and the gas and the diarrhea that I sometimes get from taking probiotics. So I'm a picky girl when it comes to supplements, but I do appreciate the ones that you have put together. I like that you go through the process of helping people pick something that will benefit them instead of them just browsing and being like, maybe this, maybe that, who knows, and wasting their money, right? Like probiotics and supplements in general aren't cheap, especially if you're getting good quality ones. If it is cheap, you shouldn't be saying it. So I love that. And I was also given a discount code for all of you to try the supplements if you would like. So if you go to gutpersonal.com/Beyond Bloated, you can shop using that discount code, 10%, or you can also just use the discount code Beyond Bloated at checkout and get 10% discount on your purchase. You can also meet with Jillian beforehand, do that complimentary call so she can help you pick out the supplements, get your discount, and voila, now you know it's something that would benefit you. So thank you for that. And did I capture it? Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, that you captured it. And I would also just say, if anyone ever has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. I'm on there every single day. It's the easiest way to get a hold of me. It's just jilliansmith.rd. And if you have any questions, I'm like, hey, which probiotic should I do? Send me a message. I'm here to help. And just thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It's such a fun conversation.
Of course. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge and for offering those free consult calls for the 10% discount. I will link all of that in the show notes as well. Your Instagram, the discount code, the website where they can book a call with you. I encourage everyone to at least follow Jillian on Instagram to see more about what she has to offer you. But overall, this has been amazing. So again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll talk soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
Did you learn something new and useful today? If the answer is a big, resounding hell yeah, do me a favor. Subscribe to this podcast. Even better, toss a rating in there too. It helps more bloated babes discover this show and lets me keep bringing you this free, gut-loving content every single week. And hey, don't be greedy. Share this episode with your bestie who's always unbuttoning her pants after dinner. She will love you even more for it. Thanks for hanging out with me and showing your gut some love. Keep on putting what you learn into practice and you will be bloat-free in no time. Catch you in the next one. Bye.